Most people will live for their entire lives, bending over backwards trying to impress other people, pretending to be somebody that they are not, and never actually really knowing what it feels like to express who they really are as a person. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, I think that's pretty sad. Like, imagine getting to your deathbed, the deathbed epiphany, and then you're just kind of there like, bruh, why did I only wear Nike? Or something? Why did I live a life in fear, hiding my true identity and my true self essentially from the world? And the thing is, when it comes to making money, being different actually works in your favor. But of course, if this was so easy to do, everybody would already be doing it, right? And also, given that you actually clicked on this video in the first place, I would assume that you at least struggle with this at least a bit. After the next few minutes, you will leave with an understanding of exactly why you refuse to embrace your quirks, why it is so freaking profitable to actually do so, and how to actually practically be yourself, okay? Because like every popular idiom or like old school advice, there is wisdom in it, it's just kind of hidden and very misunderstood. The first thing that I need you to understand is that it is not your fault, okay? This is not just me trying to make you feel better, it's genuinely not your fault. And that's because you are naturally wired in a way that makes authentic self-expression hard. Let's just go through what I've found to be the three main psychological causes as to why this is the case. The first major reason as to why you find it difficult to actually be who you are, why you are scared of expressing yourself truly, is tribe mentality. This is massive, and it's because historically, humans have always lived in tribes. That is how we've evolved, and to survive in a tribe, we had to seek approval and validation to stay a part of that group. It was essential to survival that we actually sought after these things, because if we didn't, we would run the risk of getting exiled, which basically means we get kicked out, sent into the wilds to fend for ourselves. We're not going to be able to maintain the same sort of standard of living that we would otherwise when we've got a huge group of people actually all fighting for our protection. We're able to actually increase the likelihood that we can survive predator attacks and also get access to food in a more efficient way. When we're just running by ourselves, it's obviously way more difficult. So naturally, this was in our best interests to avoid this outcome. So to do that, we would seek approval and validation. But here's the funny part about tribe mentality, okay? Newsflash, we no longer live in tribes, okay? That is not the way that society is set up anymore. But of course, we have been living in tribes for longer than we have not been living in tribes, so our brains have still yet to kind of evolve. The remnants of that evolutionary psychology is still there. The second thing that inhibits our own authentic self-expression is this psychological phenomena that I found called the spotlight effect. Now, the spotlight effect is really simple to understand. It simply is described as the psychological phenomenon by which people tend to believe that they are being noticed more than they really are. But the thing is, we are actually wired to just have this kind of built into us. Being that we are basically at the center of our own world all of the time, it is actually very difficult for us to accurately evaluate how much we are noticed by others. Because think about it like this. We are wired to basically always be self-centered because that is what's going to help us with self-preservation. Ultimately, the goal of a human being is to self-preserve at any costs. Same is true for any entity on any plane of existence, any form of life, but that does of course make it difficult for us to understand the fact that we are not being noticed as much as we think, and it is just self-consciousness. But that self-consciousness exists because it's a defense mechanism. It's to make sure that we are doing the right things to preserve ourselves. That's how it works. So the truth of the matter is, nobody really cares. At the end of the day, as we are at the center of our own world in the name of self-preservation, so too are other people. They are more concerned with themselves and their own problems than they are with you. So humans are egocentric by nature, just as you are egocentric, which is what causes your own self-consciousness and your fear that you are being watched, judged, and noticed all the time. So too is the case for every other person. The third psychological reason then as to why you are afraid of being yourself, this is called context collapse. Now, this is a very uniquely modern phenomena. This is something that we have not had to deal with as a species before about 20 or 30 years ago. So context collapse is basically the flattening of multiple audiences into a single context. So the best way that I can explain it is this. So you know how you're going to obviously act different around your parents, your significant other, or your group of friends. Essentially, context collapse is when you are acting in a certain way that is directed towards one of those audiences, and then everybody else sees it. This is caused by social media, essentially. This is caused by internet communications. When you put a post up on social media that is directed towards a certain audience that you want to see the post and engage with it, essentially everybody that you know can see what you've said and then be like, why is he talking like this? I didn't know that he thought like this. This is not what he's like in real life, and things like that. And so the risk of other people in our life seeing and judging the things that we do can be really off-putting. It's like the old if you ever used to have a YouTube channel back when you were in school, I can definitely relate to this experience. And people will be like, I found your YouTube channel. And then they like say something and you're like, okay, like whatever, cool. But people get really self-conscious about these kinds of things. And so what happens is that we self-censor as a result. We don't actually say what's on our mind. We say what we think is going to be the least offensive statement that we can make to appeal to as many different groups of people as possible. But naturally, of course, when we're trying to please everybody, it doesn't really work anyway, so it just ends up being really awkward. But here's the thing. People will move on very, very fast. Everybody's usually scared to take advantage of content, which, by the way, if you're an online business owner, content is the highest lever that you can pull. People are afraid to do that because they don't want to get judged by the people in their life. They don't want to make a YouTube video that's directed towards, actually serving people in their niche, promoting their business. Speaking of promoting business, oh, I could just put in a shameless plug there. Because they don't want other people to see them and be like, oh, this guy makes YouTube videos. Haha, that's so funny. And so people don't do it. But the thing is, people will observe this, and then after a while, they'll just be like, oh yeah, that guy makes videos. And it'll become normal again. And then nobody will care anymore. And so what you need to remember through that very, very, very brief period where people are looking at you and going, oh, this guy does XYZ now, like, why is he doing that? There are people out there who genuinely want to listen to you. You should not be avoiding taking advantage of content when there are people on the internet, people in your niche, that actually want to listen to the advice that you have to give, that actually want to pay you for your skill set. When people are saying, oh, this is cringe, like, why are you making YouTube videos? There are people that we actually want to make an impression on. The people you are afraid of aren't the ones who will be paying you. Okay, so bang, those are the three main psychological reasons as to why people are afraid of being themselves. Now we understand why it's so uncomfortable to be ourselves and actually express who we are. The question then becomes, well, why should we put ourselves through this? Well, to be completely blunt, we will become replaceable if we don't. We will become like the Buzz Lightyear meme, which I love to use all the time when I'm talking about this, is you'll just become the same as everybody else. You will basically just get swallowed up by what is called the inferno of the same. Just like everyone is just exactly the same, no deviation, no individuation, and that is not something that you want, because that will mean that you become entirely commodified. And when you get commodified, you will only be competing on price alone. So essentially, you get involved with a price war with anybody else in your niche, and it's just a race to the bottom. Like who can price the lowest until you end up just making a massive loss and then going out of business. You'll have zero leverage overall, and you're going to have no long-term stability. There is another way that this can go. Alternatively, if you try and copy things that already exist, you are going to forever be known as an imitator. So something that I like to mention a lot of the time is I see a lot of these kind of like hustle gurus on the internet. And I kid you not, I saw one time there was this guy who was like, he'd shaved his head and he had like a thin beard, and he had a red Versace robe and a cigar in some Dubai penthouse, and he was like yelling about some hustle stuff. I was like, I've seen this movie before. I don't even know what the guy's name was. I forgot. I just remember that he was an imitator. Nobody wants to carry the label of being an imitator around. No one wants to be the knockoff. You are just going to end up feeding back into whoever or whatever, so if it's like a specific subculture or subgenre, that it is that you're imitating. You will just become a walking stereotype, and that is not the kind of thing that's going to set you up for long-term stability or any other benefit that comes with being distinguished. So as we can see in both outcomes, there is no real benefit to not being different. And so that begs the question, well, is maybe a bit of discomfort actually a small price to pay in the long run? Well, I would certainly say so. And now you actually understand the why, you know why it's uncomfortable to actually be yourself. You don't have to be affected by it anymore. And let me show you exactly what I mean. When it comes to tribe mentality, which I think it does kind of remind me of this meme, the whole like, being happy versus fitting into society. When it comes to tribe mentality, you understand why people kind of judge you for it, but you can say, oh, okay, like, it's just because I'm different to them, that's why they're reacting in this way. It doesn't really make much sense to fit in with people that you aren't really aligned with anyway. And so now that you understand, those judgments don't really mean anything to you anymore. When it comes to the spotlight effect, it's kind of like that scene in Jurassic Park where Dennis Nedry goes, you know, see, nobody cares after he makes a big scene. Like, literally nobody in the area reacts to the commotion that he makes. So then you actually understand, oh, everybody's actually more focused on themselves than me anyway. So what does it matter that I just do a little bit of this and that? Because everybody's either going to forget or they won't even notice in the first place. All of a sudden, that just alleviates any risk involved with acting out of accordance with what's deemed status quo. And when it comes to context collapse, people are going to say to you like, oh, you don't talk like this in real life. You're not going to make it doing this business thing. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're so strange. Why are you putting this stuff on the internet? Well, you can just hit them with the, okay, like, I don't care. Nobody asked you because the stuff that I'm doing isn't directed towards you. Like, think about this. Can you imagine, okay, say that you've got like a part-time job as a waiter or like a cashier or something. Can you imagine acting in the same way that you do for that job around every group of people that you have in your life? Can you imagine acting like a cashier towards your significant other or to your family or to your friends? That makes no freaking sense. Do you see how absurd then it is to actually give in to context collapse and to censor ourselves as a result of that? Like, literally just hit them with the no one asked. It's that simple. Bang, all of a sudden, now that you actually know why it's uncomfortable, now that you've actually been able to debunk it, easy, and then you can just keep on working on whatever it is that you need to work on. So how is it that you're actually going to go ahead and make use of this newfound freedom that you have after being enlightened with this knowledge? Well, that would be something that if you are a frequent viewer of this channel, you will know that I am very, very bullish on: personal branding. If you use this in your business, it basically allows you to just get paid for being yourself, which is why I'm so determined to make it absolutely clear to you that being yourself in the commercial context is actually to your advantage. Consumers can't replace because you own your space. That rhymes. Essentially, because you own your space, you have an individual identity. Nobody can basically encroach upon you and your story. Nobody can claim equivalence to you. It just simply can't be done because of your distinguished identity. And so consumers can never go to anybody else for the same level of experience that you offer them because nobody else is you. This is exactly what makes it such an effective escape from commodification and being an imitator. And as well, it's just the #1 marketing tool that you can leverage. You can basically tank any sort of acquisition cost rises. You can just not be forgotten, get sales just for existing, and all of these other amazing benefits that come with leveraging this tool. I truly believe that there is nothing more powerful than this. I think that personal branding and just world building as a whole, just kind of making yourself a distinguished person in the field of business and in your niche, is physically, there is nothing more higher leverage that exists. It's simply like, this is the most powerful thing that you can ever use. So if you remember what we were saying earlier about getting commodified, well, when you are yourself and you actually have a unique identity and you express who you really are and create your personal brand as a result, you're able to then price on your own terms. You can actually price above market value, whatever it is that you want to price, because there's no other replacement. And so this is just working with economic principles. Your authority and your credibility is going to compound with every aligned thing that you do. So as long as you actually stay true to your brand's image, every action that you take is basically going to compound into creating this level of authority that cannot be challenged. And you may have heard me say this before, but for instance, when it comes to posting content, every video that you upload onto YouTube, for instance, is digital real estate. And people can look at that portfolio, so to speak, all of this digital real estate and say, wow, this guy's got time on problem. This guy's got authority because he's been at it for a while. He must have experience. He knows what he's doing. And you essentially become independent of market conditions. You can literally survive World War III when that inevitably happens, because people will just not forget about you. People will not want to trade the experience that they have with you as a distinguished individual who makes them feel and think a certain way. They can't replace that. There's nobody else that they can go to for an identical experience. So if you are interested in the more technical aspects of why personal branding as a marketing tool is the meta OP unfair advantage that you can have, then you might want to check out my video that I'm going to put up on screen right now. So we go into all sorts of technical things and explanations there so you can deepen your understanding. Check that video out if you haven't already. It's really, really good. I think you'll enjoy it. And so I'm just going to leave you with this. By definition, you already have something called a personal brand. And that is simply because a brand defined is a particular identity or image that is regarded as an asset. You have an identity and you have an image associated with you. And that's exactly what a personal brand is. So you have an image that people interpret. People will essentially create your own brand for you just by what they can see and how you make them think, how you make them feel. That's already a thing. You might as well just take control of it so you can actually have sway over the things that people think and feel when it comes to you. You can either go this way and just fade into darkness, into obscurity, become an NPC, or you can go this way, trigger a few people along the way who have chosen this path, but you can be well known, you can actually achieve your goals, you can be on top of your niche, own your space for as long as you want, because there is nothing stopping you essentially when it comes to being a person of status, being somebody that's well known. So it's completely up to you what path you want to take. So thanks for getting to the end of this video. I hope you found this really valuable, really informative. Me and my team specialize in helping online coaches and consultants build out profitable personal brands so that you can essentially own your space, dominate your niche, all of that beautiful, beautiful stuff, all of those lovely, lovely benefits. So you can find out more about what we do by using the link in the description below this video. You can go down there and apply to work with me. And also for a limited time, we are giving away free brand strategy audits, which are insanely freaking valuable, basically unsustainable for my business because of how much stuff is in them. I'm not going to be able to do those for very long, but of course you can claim one of those as well when you head down to the link in the description. So nothing to lose, everything to gain. Go ahead, check it out. But other than that, that's all there is to say for today. Thank you again for getting to the end, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.